Kids. I'm going to talk about another beer today, and we're going to keep it in the IPA family, at least the American IPA family. So a lot of people don't know this. I'm not necessarily a huge hop head. I appreciate most beers. That includes even, some of the old school bitter beers. I do like hops. Not a huge fan of aggressive bitterness, so that, kind of takes out a lot of those classic IPAs that we know and love. I can have maybe one in a night. Any more than that, I start getting a headache. It really dries me out, give you a bad hangover. So I kind of tend to lean towards IPAs that have a little more fruit character to them. I'm a big fan of the hazy IPAs, but there are some non-hazy IPAs that do have sort of that fun, maybe a little more fruitiness or sort of juiciness to them, which is why I picked the wonderful Incarnation IPA from Hands. This is a beer that doesn't get talked about nearly enough. We sell, at least in St. Louis, we sell a large amount of this beer. It is a little more approachable than some of those classic IPAs, like I was talking about, the really aggressive bitter IPAs. That's because it features my favorite hop on the planet, which is the Mosaic hop. And we kind of talk about that today. So normally, when we think American IPAs, we think your classic, what they would call C hops. Things like Centennial and Citra and Cascade and Chinook, just to name a couple. And those give you a lot of those sort of classic grapefruit peel, citrus peel, pine, sort of that resiny, dank characteristic that that's so common in hop-forward American beers. Whereas Mosaic sort of kind of run the gamut as far as the fruit is concerned. I get things like blueberry, and sometimes you get things like maybe a little bit of, pineapple or passion fruit or mango or something like that, kind of some of these tropical fruits, which are, just kind of fun, to drink versus, sort of that classic flavor profile that I was mentioning before. So this beer is loaded with Mosaic hops. Yeah, let's give it a shot, shall we? That's damn near a perfect pour, so I'm pretty happy with that. Don't get me wrong, there still is some citrus in here, and it's absolutely there, so I'd be lying to say it's not there. But there's all sorts of wonderful things going on. This one, you get a ton of that pineapple. It's really a big component of this beer, at least on the nose. Oh yeah, ton of pineapple when you drink it as well. Don't get as much blueberry on this as some heavily Mosaic hop beers. There is a residual bitterness to this beer. There is a bitterness that lingers. It's not as aggressive as beers that are hopped with those other hops I was telling you about, some of those classic West Coast IPAs. The Odell IPA last week I drank last week was much more bitter than this. Your classic IPAs like a Ballast Point Sculpin or a Lagunitas or Bell's Two Hearted. I wouldn't call those aggressively bitter beers, but those are definitely going to be more bitter than this. This is definitely slightly more fruit forward, which I find much more approachable for the average beer drinker, which is probably why we sell so much of it. Just little videos like this, as I like to tell people, tell customers, and so maybe some staff that we hire that's new, that maybe doesn't have the same experience as some of our more veteran staff. That all hoppy beers don't have to be the same. Hoppy used to mean bitterness for the longest time. Heavily hopped beer doesn't have to be that aggressive sort of like almost scratch your tongue. It's so bitter. You can have these wonderful fruit flavors and aromas. So, always take a sample of your beer. Always ask as many questions as you can when ordering and say, okay, I know this is hoppy, but is it an aggressively bitter hop, or is it more of a fruity, sort of juicy hop? And Incarnation definitely fits that profile, in my opinion. So there's also a nice, I guess it's got a little crystal malt in it as well, or a little dark, I don't know if it's crystal malt necessarily, but a little darker malt in there as well. That's going to give a little bit of extra sweetness. And doesn't come off as like a sugary sweetness, but a sweetness that sort of elevates kind of that pineapple character I was talking about. So cheers, and grab an Incarnation.